Football is constantly evolving. It has to. And I'll get to that statement about the archaic offense in 1 second. I'll come around to that. But this is where Dan finishes up. And he's right. It's very little motion. They don't do anything that they're good at. I feel like they major in things that they're bad at. And then he goes on to say how disconnected the run game is from the pass game. It's almost like the coaches don't even talk in their building. Okay. That's spot on. There has been a high level of dysfunction. I can report this now inside the building, especially between the coaches. All right. And I'm going to give you a couple of prime examples, and I'm writing about this in more detail in tomorrow's SR's Fab 5.
Stay tuned.
On pewterreport.com. Let's go to the Kansas City game, right? Tampa Bay starts off 19-3, beats the Cowboys, 20-10, beats the Saints. They're 2-0 under Todd Bowles. Mike Evans gets suspended. Okay, the scoring wasn't there. They lost 14-12. Gosh, if Mike had played, they win that game. Okay, whatever. Now you're in week 4. You're displaced by the hurricane, right? The points have kind of been, hard to come by, few and far between. But the Bucs scored 31 points against Kansas City. It looks like things may be getting better, right? Well, in that game, remember, Tom Brady threw 52 passes, and they ran the ball. The Bucs ran the ball 6 times for 3 yards. It's the worst rushing performance in the history of the NFL. And all along, Todd Bowles has been saying that we need to run the ball this year. We need to run the ball this year. We need to run the ball this year. Why? Because Todd Bowles knew without Rob Gronkowski, without AB, with only Mike, and with only Chris Godwin, really, and not just Chris Godwin, a Chris Godwin coming back from an injury. Todd Bowles was a defensive-minded coach, knew, how am I going to beat this offense? Well, I'm going to double Mike, and I'm going to try to bracket Chris, and I'm going to make Tom beat you with a hobbling Julio Jones and Russell Gage in the passing game. And I'm going to try to take away the running game, because if I stymie the running game in the first quarter, Byron's going to go away from it. That's been his MO, right? And that's exactly what happened. They didn't stick to the run. They didn't commit to the run, and you get lopsided production. And when Todd Bowles says we need to be balanced, that doesn't mean 30 rushes and 30 passes. It doesn't even mean 200 yards passing, 200 yards rushing. It doesn't mean that. What it means is you need to have some form of balance. It can't be 350 yards passing and 50 yards rushing, right? 100 yards rushing and 300 yards passing is good. And Brady even broke it down. Remember that press conference? He even talked about, hey, this is how you get to 400 yards, right? And if we can get 150 yards rushing, I only have to throw for 250 yards, right? That's Brady telling us we need to run the ball. We need to run the ball better. That's why he likes Todd Bowles, because Brady does not want to lead the league in pass attempts and pass completions at age 44 or age 45, which he did. Okay. So let's go to the Pittsburgh game, which was next, right? And you think, okay, 31 points. All right, well, maybe this offense is coming to life a little bit. Todd Bowles blew his top on Byron Leftwich. Run the ball. Run it. He even put a number on it, and I'm not going to tell you what number that was, but the Bucs didn't hit it very often. So what did Byron Leftwich do? Well, I'm going to run the ball first on first downs early on in the game, and I'm going to check the box. Ran the ball, right? So the first down runs, were those the right play calls, or was that just to appease the head coach who said run the ball? All right, Todd, here's your run out of the way. Here's another run, checking the box. I don't know Byron's motivation, but I do know there was a directive in place that he needed to run the ball more. So let's see what happened. In Kansas City, in the Pittsburgh game, which was the next week, the 20-18 loss to the Steelers. You guys remember that game? Steelers had everybody out except for Cam Hayward, right? I mean, Minkah Fitzpatrick was out. T.J. Watt was out.
They had third and fourth string players in the secondary covering Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and everyone else in between.
Absolutely, right. Mike Evans that game had only 4 targets, and he had 4 catches for 42 yards. Remember that? Just 4 targets.
I remember the following week they force-fed him the football against Carolina.
You are exactly right, Matt. You're exactly right. So he had 4 targets, 42 yards, in a 20-18 loss. Well, how in the world did the Steelers end up beating the one-win Steelers end up beating the Buccaneers with Kenny Pickett as a rookie quarterback early in the season. Then he got knocked out of the game. Remember? Then Mitch Trubisky came in. Well, the reason is very simple. Because this Bruce Arians offense is archaic. It's pretty much the same playbook that they had been running in Pittsburgh when Bruce Arians was the offensive coordinator there. Mike Tomlin's no dummy. He knows what plays were coming. Okay, that's why you could beat the Buccaneers and hold them to 18 points in that game, because they knew what was coming. So there was no creativity. There's no scheme, changes or overhauls or even like tweaks. I mean, Todd Bowles just wanted some tweaks, something different. The other thing is this. Well, I'll make this point in a second. Then the next week is Carolina, right? That's where I called for Byron Leftwich to be fired. And honestly, I thought it was going to happen. I wanted it. This was my opinion. But what I was hearing at the time, it sounded like my prediction was going to come true at midseason. In that game, remember, we talked about the balanced offense in that game. And keep in mind, the Buccaneers were only down 7-0 at halftime.
Correct.
And it wasn't really till the fourth quarter that Carolina finally pulled away. But you could kind of see once that drop touchdown from Mike Evans happened that the offense was kind of dejected. Well, in that game, they ended up throwing the ball 49 times, and they ran the ball 16 times for 46 yards. So, again, 49 passes, 16 runs, only averaged 2.9 yards. And you're right, Matt. They did force feed Mike Evans the ball. He finished with 9 catches, 96 yards. All right. Then the Ravens game on Thursday night happens. And again, 44 passes by Brady, 15 carries for 44 yards and a 2.9 yard average. I'll remind you, the Bucs were leading at halftime 10-7 in that game. Or was it 10-3? I think it was 10-3. Yeah, it was 10-3.
Yeah.
So they had the lead, yet they only ran the ball 15 times that entire game. The head coach is giving a directive. The offensive coordinator is not following through. And the back-to-back wins against the Rams and the Seahawks kind of saved Byron. And if you remember, the Rams game, they had to come from behind to beat them 16-13. Okay. And what saved Byron's job was Tom Brady, the 2-minute offense, because Tom Brady does not call the plays. He does not want that job. He is not Peyton Manning. He wants to execute the plays, and he has to work within the playbook. So he's going to try to make the play work as best he can. But in the 2-minute situation, and you've seen this, it probably even happened in that game, you'll see where he'll look at, if the TV has a close-up, he'll look at his play sheet, and then he'll wave it off and he'll call his own play. Well, that's the only time Tom would take over in 2-minute situations. And that's why this offense clicked, to be honest. Okay. So here's my finishing points on this. Bruce Arians was literally Byron's only ally left at the end of the day. Maybe Clyde Christensen, maybe Clyde. But Byron did not have the competence of anyone really on the staff left. There was a lot of problems behind the scenes. And you shouldn't have to tell the offensive coordinator to run the ball in the Kansas City or after the Kansas City game, right? The 6 carries. You shouldn't have to say, hey, we need to run the ball. But that directive was given. It was disobeyed. You shouldn't have to tell the offensive coordinator to get your star wide receiver the ball more than 4 times. Okay. You shouldn't have to, a media member like myself shouldn't have to tell Byron, hey, you've really struggled, right, with third and short situations. None of these 3rd and short runs are working because you're getting in heavy jumbo type personnel, packages, and Fournette is getting stuffed at the line, right, with 13 personnel or jumbo. Maybe spread the ball out, Byron, and maybe, go 3 wide receivers. What happened? What happened that week? They did that against the Rams, and I'm not taking any credit for that. Okay, but the thing is when all this is happening, like, I'm getting some feedback from the building, like you're right. You shouldn't have to win games going 2-minute no huddle with Tom running the show if you're the offensive coordinator. It's clear that Byron didn't understand that you don't have to run the ball successfully to use play action. And when he made statements like that in press conferences with media members that know that that's not the case. Does play action work better when you have a successful ground game? Yeah, it does.
Absolutely.
But do you need to do it? No, because of the keys of the linebacker position. They've got to follow their keys and take steps up into the hole because they have gap assignment responsibilities, right? They're going to naturally do that. Now, the beauty is if you do have a really good running game, they might take an extra step or two towards the line because they're really expecting the run, right?
Exactly.
But Byron apparently is one of the lone believers that you have to run the ball successfully to use play action, and that's not the case. It's clear that Byron didn't understand analytics and the proper place in the game of analytics because he would laugh off meaningful data and statistics when presented to him in press conferences by the media.
I think that's one of those analytics things that, I mean, it's factual, but it means nothing really.
He would laugh that off as fantasy football stuff. At no point in time was Byron Leftwich ever considered a head coaching candidate in Tampa Bay. If Bruce Arians said, Joel Glazier, Brian Glazier, Darcy Glazier, Jason Light, I want to have Byron Leftwich as my heir apparent, as my successor, the answer would have been a resounding no. At no point in time, even back in 2019 when Bruce assembled the staff and he says, hey, I'm coming off some health issues. That's why I retired. And we've got a plan in place. We've got really good coaches here. And, we have a succession plan. That succession plan was always Todd Bowles.